Alright, today we're going to talk about absolute value equations and representing an equation on a number line and with pictures. So, let's start off with talking about absolute values and getting a definition. Absolute value is just the distance a number is from 0 on a number line, so we just count left to right no matter which way it is, back to 0, and that'll tell us what the absolute value is. So, remember, absolute value is always make a number positive. So if I look at this, we have these two bars on the side. Those represent absolute value. So it says the absolute value of negative 5. So the absolute value of negative 5 is 5 spots away from 0 on a number line. So therefore, the absolute value of negative 5 is 5. So if you plotted a point at negative 5 on a number line, counted back to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that would give you your distance. So the absolute value of negative 5 is 5. Same thing with 5. You would plot it on a number line, count back, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 is 5 spots away from 0 on the number line, therefore the absolute value of 5 is 5. So no matter where you are, you just count back to 0 or forward to 0, and that's what your absolute value is. So let's take a look at these. So the absolute value of negative 12 is 12, the absolute value of 7 is 7, and the absolute value of 92 is 92. So if you have one number inside, it just makes the number positive. But if you have more than one number inside, for example, negative 2 plus 7 or 15 minus 24, you need to do what's inside the absolute value first, just like a parenthesis, and then take the absolute value. So negative 2 plus 7, different sign, so subtract. 7 minus 2 is 5. Keep the sign of the bigger number. So that means we have more positives. So now this says the absolute value of 5. We know that is 5. Over here, I don't like to subtract, so I'm going to change it to addition. Now we go stay, change, opposite of negative 24 is negative 24. So I'm going to take the absolute value of those, which those are different signs again. So that's going to give me a 9 when I subtract 24 minus 15. And since I have more negatives, I'm going to make it a negative 9. So now I want the absolute value of negative 9, which is 9. Alright, go ahead and try these first three, then we'll come back and I'll show you the solutions, and then we'll talk about a couple of these ones down here, and then I'll let you try one. Alright, so welcome back. So you got to add these two together. 8 plus negative 12 is going to give you a negative 4. Absolute value of negative 4 is 4. Over here, negative 3 minus a negative 10 is going to give me a 7. Absolute value of 7 is 7. And over here, absolute value of 16 plus negative 2 is going to give me an absolute value of 14, which is 14. Alright, now, when we have more than one thing in here, we just do it like the order of operations, and we just move left to right. So I'm going to start off with negative 15 minus 7, so I'm going to change these all to addition. So this makes this negative 15 plus negative 7 plus a negative 12 plus 2. So now, negative 15 plus negative 7 is a negative 22 plus a negative 12 plus a 2. So now I have negative 22 plus a negative 12 is a negative 34 plus 2. Negative 34 plus 2 is a negative 32, which is just equal to 32. Alright. On this one, 19 plus negative 4 is 15. I have 15 minus 6. 15 minus 6 is 9. So absolute value of 9 is 9. Alright, so go ahead and pause it. Try this one right here. Then come back when you're ready. Alright, let's take a look. So I'm going to change this to 15 plus negative 18 plus a negative 7. I'm going to take the absolute value of all of those. So 5 plus negative 18 is a negative 13 plus negative 7. Now I got negative 13 plus negative 7 is a negative 20, and the absolute value of negative 20 is 20. So that's just how we solve anything with more than one number in it for absolute values. Now if I look at this, sometimes they're going to give you a equation that's represented with a picture, and they're going to ask you to solve it. So in this one, I have 4 positives, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4 negatives, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I was to write out a statement for this, I would say this picture has 4 positives and 6 negatives, therefore this picture represents the problem 4 plus negative 6. Now, if I wanted to solve it, I could just do it by hand over here, and I know that these are different signs, so I'm going to subtract them and keep the sign of the greater absolute value. So 6 minus 4 is 2, and I add more negatives with the 6, so I'm going to be a negative 2. But we can check that in this picture, and I can combine a positive and a negative to form something called a zero pair, which cancels those out. So I'm going to do that until all that I have left is just one color, either just positives or just negatives. So since I have more negatives, I'm going to cancel out all my positive ones, and I'm left with 2 negatives. So just like we said over here, our answer is negative 2. Alright, let's try some out. So let's say I have, we'll go with 3 positives and 2 negatives. So if I gave you this problem, write out an expression that would represent this. So you got to count how many positives there are, count how many negatives, and whenever we combine stuff, it's just adding. So go ahead and try that. Alright, so if we did this, we just said we had 3 positives and we had 2 negatives, and I said that if we just add, when we have them combining, we just add them together. So, different signs, we subtract, and that's going to give me a positive 1, because we could go with my zero pair here, and all that's left is a positive 1. Let's try another. Let's say I had 5 negatives there, and I had 3 negatives over here. So count how many you have on each side, add them together. So I have 5 negatives over here, so that's going to be a negative 5. I have 3 negatives over here, so that's a negative 3, and we already said that we add those together. Now, if I wanted to find the solution to this, these are same signs, so we add together, keep the sign. So 5 plus 3 is 8, and we keep it negative. Now, if you look over here, we can't make any zero pairs because there's no positives. So we just count up how many negatives we have total. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So negative 5 plus negative 3 is negative 8. All right. We also need to be able to identify an equation on a number line. So if we look at this one, right now I'm at 6 and I'm ending at negative 2. So with problems that only have one line, you need to first look where the line starts. So that's my first number. So in this case, my first number, my line is starting at the point at 6. So that's my first number. All right, and then it says count how many spaces the line moved. So it moved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spaces. So 8 spaces. So that's my second number. So now it says if it moved left, it's a negative. If it moved right, it's positive. So it moved left, so it's a negative. So just like over here. And then it says write your equation. So that's what we have. 6 minus 8 or 6 plus negative 8, because stay, change, opposite, stay, change, and the opposite of positive 8 is negative 8. Right? We could also do it with 2 lines. So this one goes from 0 and ends at 6, and then it goes on a second line, it goes from 6 and it goes to negative 2. So with problems that have 2 lines, the bottom line always starts at 0 and ends at the first number. So it ended at 6. And if the second line moves to the right, you add a positive. If you move to the left, you add a negative. So this is moving left, so I know I'm going to be adding a negative. And we just counted how many it was. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we know that that was negative 8. And since it ended on negative 2, we know that the answer to that is negative 2. Alright. Alright, go ahead and try these. See if you can write a equation for them. So go ahead and pause it and come back when you're ready. Alright, this one right here is going to be 2 plus a negative, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2 plus a negative 6. And we know that that ends on negative 4, so that equals negative 4. This one's going to be 7 plus a negative 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that ended on negative 1. This one's going to be a negative 3 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that ended on 5. This one's going to be a negative 4 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that ended on a 1. This one's going to be a 7 plus a negative 1, 2, 3. And that ended on a 4. This one's a negative 4 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that ended on a 3. Over here we got a negative 6 plus 1, 2, 3, 4. And that ended on a negative 2. And finally, 8 plus a negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that ended on a negative 1. So notice every single one of these I added. So if my line moved to the left, it was a negative. If it moved to the right, it was a positive. So left negative, right positive. Left negative, right positive. Right positive. Left negative. So that's where all those came from. And we always equaled what we landed on. Alright, we could also do it with some word problems. So if this says Daisy the dolphin was swimming in the ocean, she started 50 feet below sea level. So if you are below sea level, that means you are negative. So she's starting out at negative 50. And then if she swam up 20 feet, that means she went up, so that's plus. So she went up 20 feet. So now this says negative 50 plus 20. And it's asking what height is Daisy at now. So negative 50 plus 20, different signs, so we subtract. So 50 minus 20 is 30. And we add more negatives, so it's negative. So now, at what height is Daisy? She is 30 feet below sea level. Alright, and the last one over here. This says a science class was doing some measurements in the woods and found out that a pond was 10 feet deep. So if it's 10 feet deep, that means it's negative 10. And a neighboring tree was 20 feet tall. So if it's 20 feet tall, that means it's positive 20. It says what is the difference in heights between the depth of the pond and the height of the tree. So negative 10 represented my pond and 20 represented my tree. So we're going to go 20 minus negative 10. We can go stay, change opposite. So 20, change minus the plus. Negative 10 becomes 10. So 20 plus 10 is 30. So there's a 30 feet difference. Alright, so that's it. So that was absolute value equations, and then representing a equation with a picture and a number line.